Okay, Emma, tell me about your family background. My father was the only parent in our home when I was a child. What effect did your family's circumstances have on your upbringing? My father instilled in me the virtue of hard work despite the obstacles we encountered. Okay, that's okay. How about you? Are you a family man? I'm not sure how applicable this is to the job for which I'm applying, though. If you worked with me more, it would be much appreciated. Are you interested in this job? Yes, I do in fact have a kid. Being a single mother, I possess resilience in both my personal and professional life. Difficult for you. People with histories similar to yours don't always have the connections and abilities needed to succeed in a competitive workplace, don't they? Success shouldn't be impeded by one's past. It inspires tenacity. According to my observations, people from underprivileged origins find it difficult to adjust to demanding business settings. Are you up to the duties of this position? I have more than enough ability. I learned resilience and adaptation from my upbringing. Honestly, I'm not sure. Individuals with your kind seldom prosper in cutthroat industries. Pardon me. You paid attention to me. Your past is not a strength but a weakness. We are seeking applicants with more favorable conditions. That is discriminatory and unjust. My skills are not limited by my background. It is what it is. Your standards ought to be lowered. You are not the right person for this position. I will not be deterred by your bigotry. Despite my past, I have the abilities and will to achieve. Adjust to your needs, but don't be shocked if you don't succeed. My name is Emma, and when I moved to New York City at the age of 23, I had to balance being a single mother, an ambitious woman, and a senior in college. My life wasn't always simple, particularly when my ex-boyfriend James, who was nothing more than a jerk, left me the moment he found out I was expecting a child. I left and attended college in another city. When I was left to take care of our child by myself, I realized I had to make my own way and build a brighter future for the two of us. It had been 2 years since we last spoke, but I decided I was better off without him. I had always looked up to my father as a child since he was a well-respected CEO at a prominent bank. I was constantly inspired by his job achievement and unrelenting devotion. I wanted to be like him, to prove that I was worthy, and to accomplish things that he had. I became completely focused on getting a job at my father's well-known bank as graduation approached. But I was resolved not to let his influence get in the way of me. I wanted to establish my worth and ability on my own. I knew the path ahead would be difficult as I got ready to enter the corporate finance industry. Equipped with an intense will, I confidently strode inside the bank. I made the decision to keep my father's relationship a secret from everyone in the company. I desired to be evaluated just on my abilities, without any partiality. I was determined to show the recruiting managers the professionalism and commitment that would grab their attention. I was excited and full of optimism when, after weeks of hard work, I finally received an invitation to my father's prominent bank for a final job interview. The idea of becoming employed by the same organization where my father had a significant influence felt like a reward for all of my hard work. I entered the modern office building on the day of the interview with a goal. I couldn't help but notice Mrs. Johnson's penetrating glance as I sat across from her throughout the interview. She asked unexpected inquiries about my personal life, going beyond my experience and qualifications. What type of family did you grow up in, Emma? My father was the only parent in our home when I was a child. What effect did your family's circumstances have on your upbringing? My father instilled in me the virtue of hard work despite the obstacles we encountered. Okay, that's okay. How about you? Are you a family man? I was uncomfortable with how invasive her inquiries were, yet I still wanted to respond politely. The conversation took a significant turn when Mrs. Johnson persisted in guiding it in a way that really disturbed me. I'm not sure how applicable this is to the job for which I'm applying, though. If you worked with me more, it would be much appreciated. Are you interested in this job? Yes, I do in fact have a kid. As a single mother, I possess resilience in both my personal and professional life. Difficult for you. People with histories similar to yours don't always have the connections and abilities needed to succeed in a competitive workplace, don't they? Success shouldn't be impeded by one's past. It inspires tenacity. According to my observations, people from underprivileged origins find it difficult to adjust to demanding business settings. Are you up to the duties of this position? I have more than enough ability. I learned resilience and adaptation from my upbringing. Honestly, I'm not sure. Individuals with your kind seldom prosper in cutthroat industries. Excuse me, you paid attention to me. Your past is not a strength but a weakness. We are seeking applicants with more favorable conditions. That is discriminatory and unjust. My skills are not limited by my background. It is what it is. Your standards ought to be lowered. You are not the right person for this position. I will not be deterred by your bigotry. Despite my past, I have the abilities and will to achieve. Adjust to your needs, but don't be shocked if you don't succeed. Her remarks felt like a kick to the stomach. I struggled to keep my cool and hide from her how upset and ashamed I truly felt. Even though her remark hurt me profoundly, I knew that at this time I had to maintain my composure and show respect. I preserved my composure and held my head high. It was at that moment that I had an idea. Mrs. Johnson was obviously not the intended interviewer for my final performance review. I had an email conversation with a genuinely kind woman, and I'm sure Mrs. Johnson is simply a stand-in for the day. Choosing not to allow her bigotry stop me, I made the brave decision to take a chance. I asked to talk to the supervisor of Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Johnson was taken aback by my request because it was unexpected. That was when it became clear that I was not as innocent and cooperative as she had thought. The power dynamic changed, and the tables have turned. She had no choice but to get up and bring in another person. Though I was really perplexed, I felt more relieved than anything. I would have a legitimate chance at least now. I was not the shy interviewee I had been when I sat down with a more seasoned HR professional. I had discovered my voice and made the decision to strongly yet calmly assert myself. I made another introduction and persuaded her to give me a job. The HR professional listened intently, her expression conveying both impression and understanding. I outlined my goals, my experience, and my willingness to help the bank succeed. It went quite well, but based on her poisonous actions, I couldn't shake the feeling that Mrs. Johnson would not allow me into this organization. I started to have second thoughts as soon as I exited the interview room. Mrs. Johnson's comment stuck with me and caused doubt in me. I wondered if I could really fulfill my aspirations of success in a place where such awful ideas were held. Was this the best spot for me to start a profession and provide my kid a better life? How in the world did my dad get this far? Is that much bleakness ahead for me? I was overcome with a range of contradictory feelings, including betrayal, rage, and disappointment. But resilience was still present at the core. I paused to collect myself. I had gone so far, surpassing anticipations and demonstrating my value at each turn. Even though Mrs. Johnson's remark hurt me, it wouldn't define who I am or what I do in the future. I resisted letting her conceit get in the way of my success. My perseverance and tenacity paid off a week later when I got an email from the bank. I had received an excellent salary offer for a job. There was unfathomable delight that filled my heart. I posted about the amazing milestone on social media because I was so excited. I was so excited to celebrate the new chapter in my life that I posted on Facebook and Instagram. I found great value in the encouragement and support I received from friends and family. I was happy for everyone who had supported me along the way, not just for myself. I began this new chapter of my life with thanksgiving and a fresh feeling of purpose. Though the road was far from ended, I was prepared to take on the chances and difficulties that the prominent bank would present. Life was going well until James's message interrupted the whole thing. Years had passed since we last spoke, so I most definitely did not anticipate his sudden reappearance in my life. "Hi Emma, it's been a long time. I hope all is okay with you. I miss you and have been thinking a lot recently. My desire is to be involved in our child's life. Could we discuss and work things out? I was shocked by his statement's boldness. He left us when we most needed him, so how was it possible for him to ask me to trust him? I had created a life for myself and my child without him, and the scars he left behind were profound. It's unexpected to hear from you after all this time, James. Without you, our child and I have been constructing our lives. I can't just say, welcome back in the absence of evidence of sincere reform and dedication. I'm hoping you get it. But James's tone changed, raising doubts about my intentions and refusing to accept my choice. How come you won't give me a chance? Is it because your current employment is doing well? Do you believe you are too excellent for me? Remember that we have a past together. I swear that I've evolved. Kindly think it over again. It's not about my work or any feeling of superiority, James. It has to do with the faith you betrayed by abandoning us. I'm not going to forget the past that easy, you know. Words alone are not enough for me. It would be ideal if you accepted my choice for the time being and gave us the room we require. All right, if that's your preference. However, I swear I'll return to locate you. Both of our parents should be present in our child's life. I will not abandon us. James, please allow us the room we require and respect our limits. My top focus is our child's well-being. Be careful. His hurtful comment sliced right through me, resurrecting ancient scars. I didn't let his attempts to manipulate me ruin the gains I had already achieved, so I held my position. But I was heartbroken, deep down. Following our meeting, a range of feelings passed through me. Vulnerability, disillusionment, and anger threatened to eclipse my recent victories. But I wasn't going to allow James's return influence me. The first day finally arrived, and it was time for me to go to my workplace. I noticed something unexpected. James was seen escorting Mrs. Johnson to her job. During their farewell, he referred to her as Mom. Suddenly, I understood why Mrs. Johnson had treated me so badly. She was his mother. She must have detested me and held me accountable for forcing him to relocate to a different place by keeping the baby. To make matters worse, I was working directly under Mrs. Johnson's supervision at the office. She was still being quite rude to me, but I knew that going in. I took care to compile proof of Mrs. Johnson's improper actions. I kept records of the times she acted unfairly and made disparaging remarks. It was difficult to deal with Mrs. Johnson's attitude at work every day. But I didn't waver. I was aware that obtaining proof was essential to revealing the truth and pursuing justice. After gathering all the proof I could, I made the decision to speak with Mrs. Johnson face to face. I knew in my heart that it was all because of her son, so I asked her why she had been treating me so badly. I went so far as to inform her that I knew about their relationship and how it affected the way she treated me. Mrs. Johnson was meaner than ever in return. "Oh, so you did figure it out in the end, did you? Yes, my son is to blame. I am steadfast in my choice to tell him to get over you. You're not worthy of a position at this esteemed bank, and you were never good enough for him. You assumed you could enter here by waltzing in and posing as a significant figure. All right, Emma, let me tell you something. You'll always be remembered as the girl who was beaten up and lost interest in a man. You're not very good." I shook my hands and punched in my dad's number. I knew he was only a few feet behind those barriers, waiting to come in and aid, and I had told him about this before. When Mrs. Johnson saw my silence, she believed she was winning. She did not stop talking. Really, she was virtually shouting by now. "Emma, you understand that you will always be beneath me. Your hopes and your objectives are all foolish and pointless. For this corporation, you are nothing more than a burden. Why they bothered recruiting you, I have no idea. You obviously don't and never will belong here. You just serve as a reminder of your own shortcomings." My dad arrived at the height of Mrs. Johnson's awful rage, observing her unprofessional conduct up close. Mrs. Johnson was taken aback to see my father, a well-liked executive at the firm. Uncomfortable stillness descended upon the room. My dad took command of the situation without hesitation. The job of Mrs. Johnson was abruptly terminated. The business immediately responded after realizing her wrongdoing. Both her reputation and her job were ruined. James got in touch with me again after that. He dared to beg for money in an attempt to place the blame and accountability for his mother's firing on me. The fact that he was just a mommy's boy who had returned into my life for financial gain became painfully obvious. I instantly saw through his deceptive behavior and turned down his plea once and for all. I wouldn't allow him to take advantage of me. I understood how important it was to defend my rights and my child's welfare. I watched as he and his mother battled to make ends meet as I permanently banned him from our life. I carried myself with pride after these incidents, knowing that I had stood up to injustice and battled for what was right. My motivation shifted to a sense of success and the desire of a rewarding profession. I embraced a better, more hopeful future and pushed aside the poison of the past with tenacity and will. With the support of my loving, industrious father, I can't wait to create a wonderful life for my child. After all, I've got my happily ever after. How about you? Put yourself in my shoes. How would you respond?